The galaxy had gone quiet. It began as whispers among the outer colonies, ships missing their jump beacons, entire trade routes vanishing into static. Then came the silences. One by one, the stars themselves seemed to go dark, not in light but in life. No distress calls, no trade signals, no chatter from the once busy worlds. Captain Wren of the Cathari fleet sat alone on the bridge of his command vessel, the vigilant Shadow, staring at a display filled with empty space. Hundreds of dots representing civilized systems blinked in and out, like candles snuffed by an unseen hand. His fur rippled uneasily, his 4 eyes narrowing. "Are the sensors malfunctioning again?" he asked, though his voice carried little hope. "Negative, Captain," replied the ship's AI in a soft, toneless hum. "Confirmed data loss from 73 inhabited sectors. No signal, no debris, no survivors." Wren leaned back, the weight of the void pressing against him. He had seen wars, he had seen empires rise and fall, but never silence like this. This was wrong. For weeks now, rumors had spread among the fleets. Some said a new plague was sweeping across the stars, something unseen that turned flesh to dust and metal to rust. Others whispered of the old machine gods returning, the AIs that once tried to wipe out all organic life. But even those machines, so feared in ancient stories, were silent now. Something else had come, something no one could see. On the 3rd week, a signal appeared, faint, distorted, and coming from the edge of a dead system. The vigilant Shadow was the closest vessel, so Captain Wren ordered a course change. As they approached, the system's lone moon came into view, shattered into drifting fragments. Among the debris floated what they had been searching for, a black box still blinking. It was the only thing left. The crew retrieved it carefully, locking it in a containment field. The data unit was ancient, scorched by plasma fire, its casing covered in strange burn marks that didn't match any known weapon. When they activated the playback, the bridge filled with static. Then came the sounds, screaming, metal tearing, the panicked shouts of alien voices begging for help. Wren felt his pulse quicken. His fur bristled. Then, beneath the chaos, something else. Heavy footsteps, slow and deliberate. He turned up the volume. Through the distortion, a voice spoke. Deep, harsh, and unfamiliar. One word. "Run!" The bridge went silent. The crew exchanged fearful glances. "That was organic speech," said the comms officer, his mandibles clicking nervously. "No translation matrix found. Unknown language pattern." "Run it again," Wren ordered. The AI replayed the file. Static. Screams. Then the word again. "Run!" It wasn't a plea. It was a warning. The sound was distinctly alien. Harsh consonants, deep resonance. But there was something about the tone. Something old. Something predatory. Wren ordered a linguistic scan. Minutes later, the AI spoke, cross-referencing archival data. "One match found. Sol system. Earth origin phonetics. Designation. Human." The word echoed through the bridge like a ghost. Human. That name had not been spoken in thousands of cycles. The Galactic Council's archives listed them as extinct, a primitive, aggressive species from a death world, wiped out during the Great Purge after they turned on their creators. No living race had seen one since, yet here, floating beside a dead moon, was a voice from that forgotten world. "Impossible," Wren muttered. "Humanity was destroyed before our ancestors learned spaceflight." "Records confirm the origin," replied the AI calmly. "Transmission frequency, biological vocal range, and linguistic structure all match ancient Earth data." Wren's eyes widened. His claws tapped the console. "Then they're not extinct," he whispered. "They're awake." The crew said nothing. None dared to. Outside, the wreckage of ships drifted silently through the black, their hulls torn open like prey carcasses. Wren looked closer at the black box's scan. The burn marks weren't random. They formed shapes, symbols, letters. The AI enhanced the pattern, projecting it across the bridge. There, written in crude, scorched lines, were 3 letters in an ancient human tongue. Solholm. Wren felt his heart beat faster. He remembered the stories told to young cadets. Tales of Earth, the death world where oceans boiled, storms raged for centuries, and every living thing learned to kill or die trying. A world that had birthed monsters clever enough to touch the stars, and now maybe something had come back from it. "Captain," said the AI, breaking the silence. multiple long-range beacons going dark, pattern consistent with spreading proximity from Sol system. Wren turned toward the star map. A red line spread outward, slow, deliberate, unstoppable. The silence was spreading. He opened a channel to the Galactic Council. "This is Captain Wren of the Vigilant Shadow. We have reason to believe the disappearances are not random. We may be facing an ancient threat from..." The transmission cut off mid-sentence. The lights flickered. "Captain," called his first officer. "We're losing power." Then came the sound, faint, distant, but unmistakable. A rhythmic signal like a heartbeat, echoing through the ship's hull. Thump, thump, thump. The AI's voice stuttered, distorted. Unidentified signal source detected inside the vessel. Wren froze. Inside? The heartbeat grew louder. Thump, thump, thump. The bridge went dark. Through the emergency lights, Wren saw movement on the main display. A shape, humanoid, outlined in static. The sensors couldn't lock on. The figure turned its head and two small points of light, eyes, looked straight into the camera feed. Then the screen went black. When the ship systems rebooted, the signal was gone. So was the recording. Only one thing remained in the system logs, a new file automatically created by the AI. It contained one word, run, and that was how it began. The galaxy would later call it the Great Silence. But those who survived whispered another name, one spoken only in fear, the return of the humans. The Council called it a science mission. In truth, it was a test, a quiet probe into the shadow that had begun spreading from the Sol system. After Captain Wren's message, dozens of fleets searched for answers. But none returned. So the Galactic Council sent a smaller team, one ship, one chance. Its name was the Vehlara, a survey vessel of the Arcan Dominion, small, fast, built for stealth. Its mission: travel to the Sol system, confirm the existence of humans, and return with proof. Commander Eltar, a reptilian officer known for his calm logic, led the crew of 12. He did not believe in ghosts or myths or ancient monsters. He believed in data, so when he received the coordinates to a small blue planet orbiting a yellow star, he felt curious, not afraid. The planet was quiet, no signals, no satellites, no space stations. Just clouds, oceans, and endless continents of green and brown. It looked harmless. Primitive, said Eltar as he stood by the viewport. No signs of civilization. The humans are long gone. His second officer, Tavi, a nervous insectoid, clicked her mandibles. Then who sent the warning? Eltar didn't answer. They entered orbit and released drones to scan the surface. For hours the data came back clean. Forests, mountains, ruins of old cities buried under vines and ash. No life readings beyond scattered animals. But then one drone picked up something strange. A faint energy pulse in the ruins of what used to be New York City. Old technology? Tavi asked. Eltar nodded. Could be. Set a landing course. The Vehlara descended through thick clouds, the ship's hull shuddering from turbulence. Lightning flashed across the dark sky. It was storming. Even though their weather scanners had predicted clear air, Eltar frowned. Adjust stabilizers. The ship landed in what used to be a city square, now just broken stone, water and overgrown vines twisting around skeletal towers. As the engines powered down, the crew stepped onto the surface for the first time. The air was heavy but breathable. The ground was wet with rain. "This world feels alive," one crew member whispered. Eltar looked around, spread out. Scan for energy sources. They began their search, moving between the ruins. Their scanners clicked softly. The city was quiet except for wind and rain. Then one of the soldiers, Joe, stopped suddenly. "Commander," he said, his voice trembling. "Something's moving." Eltar turned. "Where?" Joe pointed toward a collapsed building. The shadows inside shifted just slightly. A flicker of motion, fast and low. "Probably an animal," Eltar said. "Keep scanning." They continued forward. But the feeling of being watched grew stronger. Every few minutes, one of them would look behind, certain they saw something move, but the streets stayed empty. Finally, the scanners picked up a heat signature beneath the ruins. Faint but large. "Life form detected," Tavi said. 2 meters tall, stationary. "Only one?" "Yes, sir." Eltar felt a spark of excitement. "Let's take a look." They moved into the ruined structure, flashlights cutting through dust and darkness. The beams of light touched cracked walls. Old signs in an ancient language, English, and bones scattered across the floor. Then, in the center of the room, they found it, a cryopod. The glass was fogged over, the machinery humming faintly. Inside lay a shape, humanoid, pale-skinned, with scars running down its arms. Eltar's breath caught. "Is that—" Before anyone could answer, the pod hissed. The fog cleared. The figure inside opened its eyes. They were human. For a moment, no one moved. The human sat up slowly, blinking in confusion, or maybe in recognition. Eltar raised a scanner. "It's alive. Neural activity. Increasing rapidly." Then the human looked directly at him and smiled. "Greetings," Eltar began carefully. "We are explorers from the—" The blast threw them back. The human moved like lightning, crossing the room before Eltar could react. It struck jaw first, and one blow, clean and brutal. The soldier's body hit the wall and went still. "Open fire." Tavi screamed. Blue plasma bolts lit the dark. The human dodged impossibly fast, its movements fluid and feral. It grabbed one of the crew by the neck, lifted him and slammed him through the floor. Eltar aimed his weapon, but the human was gone, a blur melting into shadows. "Retreat," he shouted. "Back to the ship!" They stumbled through the ruins, the storm howling louder now. Lightning-illuminated shapes darting between the buildings. More of them. Not one, not two, dozens, they're everywhere. Tavi cried. By the time they reached the Velara, half the crew was gone. Eltar sealed the hatch and ordered immediate takeoff. Engines roared. The ship rose into the air, but something hit the hull hard. Then again, alarms screamed. "Hull breach on deck 3. Through the bridge window, Eltar saw them. Humans climbing the ship's sides, bare-handed, faces blank and emotionless. Their eyes glowed faintly red in the lightning. The Velara broke orbit, but the humans clung to it, tearing through metal with their bare hands. Tavi screamed. "They're inside!" Then the lights went out. The last thing Eltar saw was one of them stepping through the smoke, covered in blood, carrying a plasma rifle like a toy. It looked right at him and whispered something. The ship's AI tried to translate, but the words were simple enough. "You shouldn't have come back." The recording ended there. Days later, the Council received a distress beacon from the edge of Sol. It was faint, broken, buried under static. When decoded, it revealed only one line of text: "They see in the dark." After that, no more signals came from the Sol system, and across the stars, fear began to spread again. Not of machines, not of plagues, but of something older, something human. The recording from the Velara spread through the Galactic Council like wildfire. 12 explorers had gone into the Sol system. None had returned. At first, the Council dismissed it as a hoax, another ghost story for soldiers and smugglers. But then more ships began to vanish, trade convoys, scout patrols, entire fleets gone. Every transmission ended the same way, static, a scream, and sometimes a whisper, a single word repeated across frequencies in an ancient Earth language. Run. The galaxy had seen many wars, but this was different. There were no battles, no declarations, no demands, just silence, and the slow, cold realization that something was moving among the stars again, something human. Captain Wren, once thought lost, reappeared 6 months after the first disappearances. His ship drifted into a secure council dock, silent and without power. The recovery team boarded, expecting corpses. Instead, they found him alive, alone. He was seated in the command chair, staring at the stars through a cracked viewport. His fur was burned, his armor torn, and his eyes were wild with something beyond fear. When they asked what happened, he whispered, "They boarded us." They didn't speak. They didn't need to. Then, before anyone could stop him, he reached for a weapon and ended his life. His last words echoed through the bridge recorder. "They're not human anymore." The council called for an emergency session. Ambassadors, generals, and scientists from 100 species gathered in the Great Chamber, a place that had not seen panic in centuries. Holograms flickered as they reviewed the data from Wren's ship. Images of burned corridors, melted armor, and strange markings scorched into the walls. The markings formed a phrase in Old Earth script. "We are done being prey." Gasps filled the chamber. The word prey carried a special meaning in galactic history, a reminder of the early days when species fought for survival against stronger empires. But none had ever dared to use it like this. Prey to what? Someone asked. No one answered. Over the next cycles, reports increased. Unmanned probes sent to the Sol system vanished. Defense satellites went offline. Long-range sensors picked up faint energy bursts, unlike any known weapon. And then the sightings began. At first, they were rumors. A transport ship claimed to see a shadow following them through warp space. A mining colony reported ghostly figures walking on the surface without suits. Then came proof. A patrol near the rim detected a fleet, small but fast, entering inhabited space. The ships bore no insignia, no transponders. They were black as night, moving in perfect formation. When the patrol hailed them, they received no answer. Only a reply on an open frequency, a soft human voice. "We found you." The patrol fired warning shots. The fleet didn't respond. Seconds later, the patrol ships exploded, all at once, without visible weapons fire. When recovery teams arrived, they found nothing. No debris, no signals, no survivors, just a single message carved into the hull of a drifting escape pod. "We evolved." The galaxy panicked. Armies were raised. Old alliances were reforged. Billions of lives prepared for war against an enemy no one had seen clearly. But humans didn't attack in numbers. They appeared suddenly, struck with precision, and vanished into the void. Their weapons were silent. Their ships invisible to radar. Their tactics unpredictable. An Arcan general once said, "They fight like they remember every way we ever hurt them." No one disagreed. The first major engagement took place in the Dalis sector. The combined fleets of 6 species waited there, thousands of ships ready for battle. They waited 3 days. On the 4th day, sensors detected movement, a single human ship entering the system. It was small, unarmed, almost pathetic against the massive fleet facing it. The commanders laughed. "One ship. Are they mocking us?" Then the signal came. The human vessel broadcasted across every channel, the voice calm and clear. "You took our world. You called us animals. You forgot the cage door was open." Before the commanders could respond, the ship detonated. The blast didn't destroy the fleet. It released a cloud, invisible, nanoscopic. Minutes later, every ship's system began to fail. Engines stalled, shields collapsed, and out of the darkness hundreds of human ships uncloaked, massive, angular, silent as death. They didn't use lasers or missiles. They boarded. The battle lasted only hours. When reinforcements arrived, the Dalis fleet was gone. All that remained were empty hulls drifting in formation, perfect, untouched. Each ship's crew was missing. Every console bore the same words, burned into metal by plasma heat. "You made us monsters. We made it an art." After Dalis, the galaxy finally understood. Humanity wasn't seeking revenge. They were sending a message. They didn't conquer planets or enslave people. They simply erased those who stood in their way. Every world that resisted went silent. Every fleet that fought disappeared, and every time the same warning followed. "We are humanity. Remember us." As fear spread, some worlds tried to hide. They shut down their beacons, buried their technology, and hoped the humans wouldn't notice. It didn't matter. The humans had learned patience. They didn't need to rush. They would wait in the shadows, unseen, until the galaxy itself grew tired of fear. And then they would strike again. Across the stars, alien children began to whisper a new bedtime story, one their parents begged them not to repeat. They said that if you looked into deep space long enough, you'd see a flicker of red light, 2 glowing eyes watching you from the dark. And if you ever heard a voice whispering run through your comms, it was already too late. Because by then, the ultimate predators had already found you. The humans were back, and this time they weren't running from anything. At first, the galaxy thought the Terrans were only ghosts, shadows that struck in the dark and disappeared before anyone could fight back. But shadows don't burn worlds. And the Terrans did. It began with the Arcan Dominion, the oldest empire in the known galaxy. They had enslaved hundreds of species, including humanity long ago. They ruled with cruelty and fire. When their outer colonies went silent, the Dominion sent fleets to investigate, vast armadas of silver warships, their hulls glimmering like blades. None returned. So the Dominion gathered everything they had, 6,000 ships, millions of soldiers, the largest fighting force ever assembled. They called it the Crimson Crusade. Their goal, destroy Earth and erase the Terrans once and for all. The crusade reached the Sol system in less than a month. They found no resistance, no defense grids, no fleets, only Earth, black, burned and silent. Admiral Karen, the Dominion's supreme commander, stood on the bridge of his flagship, staring at the dead planet. "This is it?" he hissed. "This is what the galaxy fears." His officers laughed. But their laughter died when the sensors began to fail. Every radar screen flickered. Communications dropped. The stars themselves seemed to vanish. "Something's jamming us," said one officer. "Source unknown." Then from the darkness behind them, hundreds of red lights appeared, faint at first, like distant stars. The Admiral's eyes widened. Magnify. The view shifted. The lights weren't stars. They were eyes. Terran ships. The Dominion fleet turned to engage, weapons charging. Fire. Karen roared. Thousands of plasma cannons lit the void, waves of blue energy crashing into the Terran formation. The light filled space like lightning. When it cleared, the Terrans were still there. Not one ship destroyed. Their hulls absorbed the energy, glowing faintly red as if feeding on it. Then the Terrans fired back. There was no flash, no beam, no sound. Only silence, followed by destruction. Dominion ships exploded from within as if something inside them had come alive and turned against its own crew. "Boarding parties," someone screamed. "They're inside the ships." It made no sense. The Terrans hadn't launched pods. They hadn't docked. They had simply appeared. One by one, Dominion ships went dark. On the Admiral's flagship, alarms blared. Doors sealed. Soldiers screamed in the corridors. Karen drew his blade and turned to his guards. "Hold the line!" But then he saw it. A figure emerging from the smoke, tall, armored in black. Its visor glowed crimson. Its movements were slow, confident, unstoppable. Karen aimed his weapon. "You're too late. The Dominion will never fall." The Terran tilted its head, almost curious. Then it spoke. Its voice was calm, human. It already has, and the flagship was gone. By morning, the Sol system was silent again. The Dominion fleet, the greatest in galactic history, had been erased. In the ashes of the Arkan homeworld, a single message was found, broadcast on every channel. "We are not your prey. We are the end of your hunt." Within weeks, the Dominion collapsed. Its slaves rebelled, its leaders fled, and its worlds burned. One empire down, many more to follow. The next target was the Cathari Alliance, home of Captain Wren's people, the same who had first discovered the black box. They had always believed themselves neutral, wise, untouched by war. When they received reports of Terran fleets approaching, they offered peace. They sent transmissions begging for negotiation. The Terrans didn't reply. Instead, they sent coordinates. A single message attached read, "Evacuate. You have one cycle." The Cathari Council thought it was a bluff. They were wrong. Exactly one cycle later, the skies above their capital turned red. Thousands watched as Terran ships appeared, not from hyperspace, but from thin air, as if the void itself had opened to let them through. They didn't fire weapons. They released something else. Dark clouds spread across the sky. Nanomachines, invisible and unstoppable. Within hours, every piece of technology stopped working. Engines died. Weapons failed. Cities went dark. The Cathari looked up and saw them. Humans walking through the streets, unmasked, unharmed, moving with silent precision. No one dared to fight. When it was over, the Cathari were gone. Their world was empty. Their history wiped clean, and across the ruins, carved into the stone walls of their great library, were the words, "Knowledge without memory is useless." Panic spread across the galaxy. The once great empires, the Veil, the Zur, the Omari, all fell the same way. No massive wars, no heroic last stands, just silence. One by one their systems went dark, their fleets vanished, their leaders disappeared. It was not conquest. It was correction. The Terrans didn't want slaves or territory or tribute. They wanted silence, the same silence the galaxy had given them when Earth burned, and they got it. Centuries of arrogance crumbled in months. Entire civilizations that had ruled the stars for millennia became whispers in the void. And when the Galactic Council, what was left of it, tried to call for peace, the humans answered with a final broadcast, a single voice, distorted by static speaking in the ancient human tongue. You taught us fear. Now we will teach you peace. Then came the sound of a heartbeat, slow, heavy, endless, and as the last empires fell, that heartbeat echoed through every remaining world, thump, 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 until even that went silent. The galaxy would never forget the day the stars themselves seemed to hold their breath, the day the predators took back their place at the top of creation, the day the humans returned, the day the empires fell. The galaxy was broken, worlds once alive, with light now hung cold and dark. The trade lanes were empty. The Council's grand citadel, once orbiting a shining blue nebula, floated in silence, its halls filled with ghosts. Only 7 species remained. 7 voices in an ocean of quiet. They were the last survivors of the Great Silence, and they had come together to beg. The chamber of the Council was vast, a circle of stone and steel built to hold thousands. Now it held only a handful. At the center stood Elder Vora, the last of the Jour scholars, her silver skin dim under the failing lights. To her left sat High Speaker Talrin of the Cathari, one of the few who had escaped the fall of his homeworld. To her right, a machine, the AI core Omen 7, flickering, damaged, whispering static prayers. They waited. The silence pressed against them, heavy, unnatural. Then the air changed. The temperature dropped. And the stars outside the chamber dimmed. "They're here," Talrin whispered. The doors opened with no sound. Figures stepped inside. Tall, armored in black and grey, their faces hidden behind mirrored visors. Humans, the Terrans. They moved like smoke, their boots making no sound on the floor. Every step felt deliberate, every motion perfectly measured, like predators circling prey. At their head was one without a helmet. A woman, pale and cold-eyed, her dark hair streaked with silver. She looked around the chamber, then spoke, her voice calm, almost gentle. "I am Commander Hale, voice of the Terran Directorate. You wish to speak? Speak." Elder Vora rose, her trembling hands gripping the edge of the table. "Why?" she asked. "Why destroy us? We surrendered. We begged for peace." Hale's eyes narrowed. "Peace?" Vora nodded. "You wanted vengeance. You've had it. The empires are gone. The galaxy is yours. Why keep killing?" The human said nothing for a long moment. Then she turned, pacing slowly around the table. "You think this was about revenge," she said. "You think this was war. It wasn't. This was purification." The word hung in the air like a curse. Omen 7's voice crackled through the static. "Clarify. Purification implies contamination. What contamination?" Hale stopped walking. She looked at the flickering machine, her expression unreadable. "You," she said. "All of you." Gasps echoed through the chamber. "For thousands of years you ruled, traded, enslaved, experimented. You called yourselves advanced, civilized, yet your progress came from blood. You built an empire of corpses and called it peace." Talrin slammed a clawed hand on the table. "And you humans are better. You burned worlds. You erased species." The commander stepped closer until she was face to face with him. "We learned it from you." The Cathari shrank back. Hale's voice softened. "When Earth fell, no one came. The machines you made turned on us. The plagues you bred spread across our skies. You watched us burn and you did nothing." She turned her gaze toward the stars outside. "But humanity did not die. We adapted. We evolved. We remembered," Vora whispered. "Remembered what?" Hale looked at her. "How to survive. How to hunt. How to become the thing the universe fears to touch." Silence again. The council didn't move. Finally, Omen 7's failing voice spoke once more. "Then what now? You have cleansed. You have hunted. What remains?" Hale stared at the machine, at all of them. "Now comes balance." She gestured, and the wall behind her shimmered. A holographic map appeared. The galaxy, vast and broken, its stars dimmed to embers. "Your empires are gone," she said. "But your people are not. Scattered, hiding, waiting. We will rebuild this galaxy differently." Talrin scoffed. "Under your rule?" "No," Hale replied. "Under our watch." Her tone left no room for argument. "You will not trade. You will not colonize. You will not build weapons. You will live quietly, learn, heal. If you break that peace..." She let the sentence fade. No one dared to ask what would happen next. Elder Vora took a slow breath. And humanity? What will you become? Hale looked at her, and for the first time there was something almost human in her expression. Sadness. We don't know, she said softly. We've gone too far to return. Her soldiers stepped forward, placing small devices on the council table, obsidian cubes softly pulsing red. Each contains a record, she said. Your histories, your crimes, your truths, keep them. Teach your young what you did, and what we became because of it. Vora reached out, touching one of the cubes. It was warm. Why give us this? She asked. Hale's answer was simple. Because forgetting is how monsters are made. The humans turned to leave. As they reached the doors, Vora called out, her voice breaking. Wait, Commander Hale, will there ever be peace between us? Hale paused. For a long moment she didn't answer. Then, without looking back, she said, When the stars no longer fear the dark, and the Terrans were gone. The council sat in silence, the hum of the cubes filling the air. Omen 7 finally spoke. What now? Elder Vora looked out into the blackness of space, her reflection faint against the void. Now, she said, we remember. The camera of history pulled back, past the ruined citadel, past the broken stars, past the shattered empires, until only darkness remained, and from somewhere deep within that darkness came a whisper, not of fear this time, but of awe. The humans saved us by becoming what we feared most. Centuries passed. The stars healed slowly. New worlds bloomed where ashes once drifted. Species that had survived the Great Silence began to rebuild, carefully, quietly, as the humans had ordered. The memory of the Terrans faded into whispers and bedtime stories. Parents warned their children, be kind, be humble, or the humans will come again. Most no longer believed it. After all, no one had seen a human in 500 years. Only ruins remained, silent monuments on cold moons, black towers on forgotten worlds, and red-eyed statues that seemed to watch anyone who came too close. The galaxy had learned to live with fear, but it had also learned to forget. The new dawn on the edge of the Orion expanse, a small world called Kailar, had become a symbol of renewal. It was home to 1,000 species living together, peacefully for once. There were no armies, no fleets, no weapons, only scholars, farmers, and builders. At the heart of the capital city stood the Temple of Memory, built from fragments of the old Galactic Council. Inside it, the last of the ancient black cubes glowed faintly. The Terran archives. Few dared to touch them. Fewer still could understand them, but one did. Her name was Lyra, a young historian of the Vael. Her kind had once served the Dominion, enslaving others. Now they served peace. Lyra had always been curious about the old stories, especially about the humans. Were they truly monsters, or saviors who had simply gone too far? No one could answer. So Lyra sought the truth herself. One night, as storms rolled across Kailar's sky, Lyra descended into the temple's deepest vaults. There, covered in dust and time, she found a cube unlike the others and larger, pulsing with slow, rhythmic light, a heartbeat. She reached out, trembling, and placed her hand on it. The cube responded. The vault filled with light, blinding, alive. Then came a voice, low and human, echoing from nowhere and everywhere. If you are hearing this, we are gone. Lyra froze. The voice was old, tired, but clear. We did not want this. We wanted peace, but peace built on silence cannot last. So we left, beyond the edge, beyond the stars. Watching. The cube flickered, showing visions, vast Terran fleets drifting beyond known space, black ships disappearing into the dark between galaxies. We sleep now, the voice continued, but when the galaxy forgets what we taught it, when it begins to fall again, we will wake. Then silence. Lyra stumbled back, her heart pounding. The light faded. The cube went dark. She whispered to herself, they're still out there. Echoes in the dark. The next morning, Lyra went before the Kailar Council. She tried to warn them. They never left, she cried. The Terrans are watching us. The archives say they'll return if we forget their lesson. The councillors exchanged uneasy glances. Old Speaker Wren, a descendant of the same Kithari, who once found the first black box, shook his head. You've read myths, he said gently, stories to frighten the young. Humanity is gone. The past is gone. Let it stay buried. But Lyra refused to believe it. That night she returned to the temple and found soldiers waiting. The cube was gone. The vault sealed. When she demanded answers, the guards said only one thing. The council ordered it destroyed. Lyra's heart sank. That night, she left Kayla and never returned. The forgotten signal decades later, across the void, something stirred. In a lonely system at the edge of the galactic rim, an old satellite came to life. It had been silent for centuries, its code written in a language no one used anymore. It began broadcasting, a faint pulse. One message, over and over, run. The same word the Cathari had heard 1,000 years ago, the same that started it all. The signal spread. At first, only a few ships picked it up. Then it echoed across dozens of systems. The pulse grew stronger, deeper, like the heartbeat of something vast awakening in the dark. Panic spread again. Old fears resurfaced. The empires that had sworn never to rise again began building fleets. For protection, they said. Weapons returned. Armies formed. Treaties shattered. And just like that, the galaxy began to repeat its oldest mistake. The return 100 years after the signal began. Lyra's name was forgotten, but her journal remained, hidden deep within the temple of memory. One day, a young technician repairing the temple's systems stumbled upon it. He opened the file and read her final entry. They will come back, not to punish, but to remind, because we are still what they made us, and they are still what we made them. Before he could read more, the lights went out. The temple shook. Outside, the sky turned red. Hundreds ran into the streets as thunder rolled across space, and then they saw it, a shadow eclipsing the stars, a ship, massive, black, and silent. Its hull bore no symbols, no lights, only a single word etched in silver. Terran the message, every world saw it. Every species heard the broadcast. A human face appeared on every screen, pale and expressionless. Not flesh, but something older, digital, eternal. The voice spoke softly, calmly. You forgot. Silence followed. Then the voice again. We gave you peace. You turned it into power. You built armies again. You took slaves again. You repeated every sin we erased. The image leaned forward. So we have returned, not as conquerors, but as witnesses. The galaxy will choose change or vanish. And then, just like before, the transmission ended with a single sound, a heartbeat, slow, heavy, infinite. Legacy, after that day. No one saw the Terrans again. Some said the black ships vanished beyond the rim. Others believed they had always been here, hidden in the dark between stars, watching. The galaxy never learned the truth, but it changed. Armies disbanded. Empires crumbled. Worlds turned their gaze inward, to heal, to remember. And somewhere on a quiet planet under a blue sky, a child looked up at the stars and asked, "Are the humans real?" His mother smiled sadly. "No one knows," she said. "But they were the reason we're still here." The boy thought for a moment, then whispered, "I hope they come back." His mother shivered, remembering the stories. "Careful what you wish for," she murmured. "The humans don't come for peace. They come when peace is broken." Final scene far beyond the galactic rim. In the dark void between galaxies, something moved. A fleet of ancient ships, asleep for centuries, slowly came alive. Engines hummed. Red lights flickered. In the command vessel, a single human figure stood before the stars, her armor dull, her eyes bright. It was Commander Hale. She had not aged. Her voice echoed through the silent fleet. The cycle begins again. The stars ahead shimmered, a faint trembling, afraid. Hale watched them, then whispered, "Let's remind them why the galaxy learned to whisper our name." The fleet turned toward the Milky Way. 1,000 red eyes opened. 1,000 ships roared to life, and as the Terrans began their long return home, one final message rippled across the void, unseen, unheard, but felt by every living thing. The predators have awakened.